Hello and welcome back. I'm so excited to be talking with you today. This is a question I hear often. It is how to choose which industry to write for. Whether you want to choose one out of passion or profit, I'm going to discuss it all. If we haven't met yet, my name is Jessica Johnson, and I mentor writers in how to build their own profitable freelance businesses, to scale to six figures, to create location freedom as their own boss. After having done it myself, I scaled to multi six figures even in the first year. And so I have learned a lot. I've also been on the inside of corporate hiring writers and managing content teams for international companies. And then obviously I've been a writer and I've had to actually figure out what works in the real world as a writer pitching brands. So I am here to share all I've learned, and I hope this really serves you today. So if you are debating which industry to write for, I have another video that may be helpful to you as well, which is all about to niche down or not to niche down, the pros and cons of each path. But if you have decided you're curious about choosing a particular industry that can either be the most fulfilling to you or can make the most financial freedom and profits, there can be a few things that can help guide your path. So the first thing that I like to start with is, what do you enjoy? Because that is what is going to feel the most fulfilling and the most sustainable to you as a writer. So if there is a industry that you just happen to love the most, then that can be something that you really want to explore as a content writer, right? Because that passion is going to fulfill you. And what I love about this too is it's this way that content, even if you don't think of yourself as a writer, but you have something you're passionate about, you can really love a content career as giving you freedom to be your own boss, because it can feel less like you're writing those essays from college where they're not that fun for anyone, right? And more like you are continually getting paid to learn about something you love, to write about something you love, to share about it, all through your content business. So I routinely hear from people who didn't like writing per se, right? And I wouldn't even, I mean, I like to write, but I wouldn't consider myself to be like, like writing is what got me into it. I think really for me, it was just loving to learn and having passion about wellness or about marketing or about other industries, right? So for you, maybe you're interested in tech or home decor or renovation or cars or space or scuba diving or travel or whatever. That could be a place that you start with because it's an industry that you love writing about. And therefore, you can carve yourself out to be this expert who's really fueled by passion for this one area. Okay, so that's always a good place to start because that's where your heart is. And that's going to carry you even on the days you're tired, right? If you have that passion. The second thing I would think about is, what do you already have expertise in? So, somewhere that you have expertise, whether it is in work history, years of experience, project samples, that can be a really great place to carve out your particular niche or industry as a writer. For example, I know someone who had a ton of experience in healthcare, and she'd spent years learning how to do medical care and even to be more into nursing. And she never thought of herself as a writer, but she knew she wanted to create more freedom in her life. She knew she wanted to be her own boss. And so she began carving out this really amazing niche as a healthcare writer. And so all of a sudden, she's leading not with the experience she has as a writer, but with the experience she has in her education and her certifications and her work experience in this particular field. And she's now able to stand out even above in front of other writers, right? And other people who have a ton of writing experience because she has experience that's so unique to that industry. And that's so rare, honestly. Like, you don't hear about writers all the time that have medical degrees and a ton of experience actually in the field talking about healthcare. Right. So that may be the case for you, where maybe you have been a lawyer up until now. And so you've never thought of yourself as a writer, but you want less intense work hours. You still want to earn a really great rate. You want to be your own boss. And so you could become a writer who specializes in writing for legal firms, who helps promote them, who helps do their marketing and their blog posts. And for you, maybe that's such a more fun way to be involved in law. but it really sets you apart from the beginning in terms of getting clients because you have expertise and an understanding of this language that so few writers are ever going to have. So that can be something that you look at where maybe you don't lean so much on your writing expertise, but you lean on whatever you've done in your career up until now. It could be sales, it could be marketing. There's there's more than a million businesses out in the world, right? And so every single one of them needs content, needs blogs, social media, emails, web copy, sales pages. So you can lean on your expertise in those fields to really hone in on that industry and become the expert writer in that field. Does that make sense? So that's a great thing to do if you're coming to this as a career change and you're like, I don't have a ton of writing experience. You most likely have experience in something else, and that could be a great place to begin as a writer. All right. The next thing I always think about is almost just removing the complication of it and just looking at what opportunities are presenting themselves to you. And that's really how I started building my business. Is I just followed whatever opportunities presented themselves at first. And what happened is I started to get a few clients and we worked together really well. And so they had a ton more work for me. And so I scaled my hours that way. One led to a referral, led to another referral. I started to just make connections. And I teach all of the different ways that, I've used that have helped me to get clients in my program, which I can share more about in the video description if you're interested, or drop a comment and I can send you the link and stuff. But that really helped me just go and follow where the work was, right? And I think it helped me build my business so quickly because I wasn't limiting myself to a certain type of client or industry from the get-go, but I was really just open to whatever opportunities presented themselves. And many of them ended up being long-term partnerships and very, very lucrative opportunities because they were clients with just so much work, right? And so that's what I would really recommend is like, you don't need to go find 20 different clients in an industry. You just need a few clients because even if each of them has 10 hours of work a week, you have a 40-hour work week business then. You are booked, right? And 10 hours of work a week could look like you do a blog post for them, you do a few social media posts and an email, and they all go together. And so you do that for 4 clients, you're booked. How amazing is that, right? So almost just being open to whatever presents itself. Another benefit of that is you might be surprised. So for me in the beginning, because I was open to any kind of client, I got to experiment and really find out which ones were most interesting to me and also which ones made the best clients. And sometimes I was surprised. Sometimes I had a lot of passion for a particular industry, but in terms of a client, they were hard to work with, or they weren't quite to the place yet where they had the budget to really see the value of content. And so there were just nuances that I got to learn because I was working with so many different clients that will give you that expertise and perspective that you wouldn't get if you start out thinking you only want one industry, when maybe there's another that actually could make your business really successful and fulfilling right away. So kind of just see what comes. And that would be another way to even don't overthink it and just see what opportunity appears. Another thing you can think about is, are there any harder, quote unquote, industries to write about that you could carve out your expertise in? So harder is subjective, right? But one that I think about is maybe tech. I had a lot of success with tech clients because I think tech can be something that intimidates a lot of people, right? Because you can read some of these tech blogs and be like, what are they talking about? And so for me, instead of letting that intimidate me, I really just took it as an opportunity to trust my ability to research and to say, I can figure anything out. And to just take it blog post by blog post. And over time, I started to become an expert. And I started to understand things better and make more associations, and it didn't feel as challenging. And one tech client led to another because, they want another tech writer. So that can be one that you really explore, where maybe there's like so many different wellness writers, right? Or lifestyle or things like that. But there could be very few tech writers, very few legal writers, very few healthcare writers. So again, those are all just ideas, and there's a bazillion other industries that I'm not even mentioning, but that can be one that you play with. And instead of letting those challenging industries intimidate you, you lean into that and you realize that there's not going to be as much competition, so you can become the de facto expert. And with a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, you can really become the go-to person that takes that on and gets all the work. And in many cases, can charge higher rates because there are so much fewer writers and so much fewer competition that you're in a place to be more in demand and your expertise can be valued at a little bit higher rate, right? Another little pro tip is that with all of these suggestions I've mentioned, writing about things you love, writing about things you have expertise in, writing about quote unquote more challenging industries or whatever, presents itself to you, you can go ahead and make samples now, even if you don't have the clients for the industry that you desire writing for. So let's say you do decide that you want to go and pursue tech. Go right now and look up a few potential topics of things you could write about for tech, whether it's best practices for artificial intelligence, best practices for Google Analytics, for whatever it may be, and write a few blog posts as bodies of work that then anytime you talk to a client who's asking you about work or asking you if you can do tech writing, you can say, actually, here are a few examples of how I've written for tech before. And they don't need to be tied to a certain client because what the prospective client is looking at is if you can write and what your voice is and how you organize things and if it makes sense and if they can see you writing for them. So don't ever underestimate having no experience. As long as you can go create those work samples, you can create something that really gets you in the door with your desired industry. All right, so those are the recommendations that I would give. Again, number one, start with what you enjoy. I mean, fulfillment and passion is always so underestimated, but can really be the thing that guides you and leads you to a really fulfilling career. Number two, what do you have expertise in? What's your current work history? Like, what do you have certifications or education in? That's not wasted time. That is time you've spent building the ability to now be a writer in those areas. Number three, what opportunities are presenting themselves? Go ahead and just explore those. You might be surprised. And then number four, what are some of the harder industries to write in that you could carve out that expertise in and really be the go-to person with a lot less competition and potentially higher earning potential? All right, that is what I would recommend. I'd love to hear in the comments which one you're thinking about, if anything was new or sparked a new idea that you hadn't considered. And I cannot wait to continue to support you in building your dream business. I will drop some helpful resources and free potential starter kits or links in the description, so check that out. And let me know as well what other videos you would like to see here, and I will be sure to create them for you.